Hi, I'm Karen. We're here at Montavilla Sewing Center, and today we're going to talk about the accessories that come with your Bernette B38 sewing machine. To start with, we have the screwdriver, and this screwdriver is used for removing the screws on your needle plate and as well as loosening and tightening the needle clamp screw here. Also, just a warning here, just always make sure that your needle is all the way up to the stopper before you tighten it. That's important for the operation of the machine. Okay, then we have the brush, and the brush is meant for cleaning your machine. So we have other videos talking about how to take the needle plate off and cleaning under there and putting it all back together. Here we have our set of needles, and right here is our twin needle. Now remember, over here we have this twin needle button, so when you are using the twin needle, make sure you select that. When you go back to using a straight needle, push this again to turn that off, and this little blinking icon here is to remind you to put your single needle back in, and then press it again, and now you're back to single needle sewing. It's a decorative stitch technique, and your book will tell you about that. Speaking of books, your instruction manual is very complete as to how it tells you what to use, what foot to use, the techniques, and so forth. We also have other videos that talk about, kind of explain this more fully. Okay, this little net here is what you would use if you had a decorative thread was kind of springy and tended to want to unspool from the spool by itself. So you'd put this around that spool of thread. But for most regular sewing threads, you don't need this. This, of course, is your seam ripper. This is what you would take to unstitch your stitches. You'd just slide this right under a stitch, and then that's where it would cut it right there. Also, you can use this for opening buttonholes. Once you've sewn the buttonhole, you just slide that right up the center of the buttonhole to open the buttonhole. When you're using this, put the little cover on there because it gives you more to hang on to. Plus, when you set it down, it's not going to roll away. And when you're not using it, cover it right back up. This is our auxiliary spool pin, and this goes right up here like this. So again, if you're using that twin needle, you would use 2 spools of thread, thread them the same way, and then when you get down to here, there's a hook on this side and a hook on this side, and then you thread them by hand, front to back, each needle. That's what this is for. So I'll take that back off. But that's also why they give you 2 spool caps, 2 of the large, 2 of the small. One of the small ones is already on your machine. Okay, and then we have 4 bobbins. One of the bobbins is already in the machine, so you have 3 additional. And you can get more bobbins if you want to. Just make sure that they're same size and configuration. The class 15 bobbins. Make sure they're not shorter or wider or metal. They should be the plastic class 15 bobbins. Over here we have the feet. Now, the regular foot for sewing is right here on your machine. It's the one that has the knob, and that knob is so that it keeps the foot level as you're going over really thick seams so that it doesn't get bogged down against the seams. That's what that's for. Then we have foot C, which is for doing this stitch right over here. It calls for foot C, so if I push that there, see, it calls for foot C. What this does, it has some little wires right there so that when it's taking those big stitches from the seam line to the edge of the fabric, it keeps the fabric from scrunching up. It creates some slack in the thread. So the settings are all just right for using foot C. I'm going to go back to stitch number 1 there. This is your zipper foot. Now you can attach it either on this side or on this side, so you can sew very close to the zipper teeth if you want to, whichever side that you choose. On the back here, it gives a little bit of a channel so that you can run your zipper teeth right under there. What this foot is also good for is for sewing on that piping that it's already covered with cloth piping that you can buy in packages. I think Wright's Trims has that. So you can sew really close to this seam line on the piping and get a nice crisp piping in your seam. It's really, really a nice technique. And then we have our fancy stitch foot. Now this one here is different from your regular foot in that it has a channel at the bottom. The regular foot is flat here. The reason why we want to have this channel is because our decorative stitches, or your maybe short zigzag that puts a lot of thread, all those stitches put a lot of thread into the fabric, and so as those stitches are being formed, you want to have a place for them to flow right on through. So that's your fancy stitch foot. Now it's different from F2. They both have that channel, but the F2 foot is the open toe foot. I like the open toe foot for whenever I'm sewing, like sewing in the stitch in the ditch or in the well of the seam, where I want my seam to practically hide in that well of the seam. Quilters will use this technique. But also if you're trying to stitch exactly precisely on a line that you've already marked on the fabric, this is a good one for that too. And then we have the blind hem foot. Now the blind hem foot on this machine is a little bit different than blind hem feet on some of the other machines. This one has an adjustable guide on the side, so you can make it wider or narrower. So for doing blind hems, this is great to have this adjustment so that you can sew thicker or thinner fabrics. But another nice thing about this is you can use this at the edge of your folded fabric to sew nice narrow pin tucks, or you can move this out to the side like this, as far as it goes out there, and move your needle over. You would use this here to move your needle over. And then you can sew a top stitch, say like on the edge of a collar or edge of a cuff or something like that. So that's a nice foot for doing that. It's very versatile that way. And here we have the button sewing foot. Now the way this goes on here, you would kind of hook it onto the back like that, lower your presser lever, and there it is. This is not going to rock because it has those two bars here. And what this is for is you would drop your feed dogs like this, go to your zigzag. Now because the feed dogs are not in play, now it's just going to zigzag side to side, and you can sew on buttons, the kind of buttons that have holes right through them. As you're doing that, you want to make sure that the needle's not going to hit one side or the other, so you can widen that stitch if you need to, or even narrow it if you need to. Okay, let's go back to stitch 1, take that back off of there, this back on. I want to put the regular foot back on the machine. Here we go. Okay, then we have the buttonhole foot. Now the buttonhole foot is a special foot for making our buttonholes, any kind of buttonhole that this machine will make. This is the foot you would use. We have another video that shows how to make buttonholes. It's not with this exact same machine, but it is the exact same procedure. So I would invite you to watch that video for how to make buttonholes. It really makes nice buttonholes, very accurate and easy to use. Okay, along with our machine, we have an extension table. Now this is going to give us extra room to sew, so we pull off the accessory tray, put that over to the side, and turn these legs outwards like this. You slide this right on, and look at that nice area that you have now. It will support your project as you're sewing. If you're a quilter, it gives you more area to support your quilt as you're sewing. Also, you have the inch marks and centimeter marks along here. Take that back off of there. And it stores nice and compactly with the legs in there. Another thing I wanted to show you about this here. This is our accessory tray. It has a couple of dedicated storage spots for some of your larger accessories. Put that down in there like that. This is the extra spool pin. And then your buttonhole foot can go right in there, and then the accessories, other accessories can go in wherever they fit in. So I'm going to put these off to the side here. Put this back on. Then we also have the hard cover. Now this nice hard plastic cover is great for whenever you need to transport your machine put this cover on, it will protect your machine. Of course, we want to turn this off. Now, when you put this on, we need to unplug our machine. So make sure your machine is unplugged. Then you can put the cover on right there. And then all you need to do is lift up this handle and you can pick up your machine. So think of it this way. This is kind of like a cape for your machine. It sits on the shoulders of the machine. And so when you lift it up here, it's just sitting on the top of the machine. Also, on the inside, we have little bumper pads that help it fit nice and securely so it doesn't rattle around. So that's the accessories on the Bernette B38. Stay tuned for some of our other videos. And if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. If you have questions or comments, you can leave those comments in the little area down below. So stay tuned. We'll see you later. Bye.